It's been 2 days, and I still can't get the image out of my head. Sleep in a building with no accommodations is hard enough. Now the red waves keep me awake. No one wants to talk about it, but when the HRAs went down, everyone experienced something. From what I can gather from them, our visions were different. Maybe the eggheads outside the boardroom have some ideas, but in my secluded corner there isn't a lot of small talk. Instead, I focused on research. Having no information on the HRAs going down reminds me of the oscillator. Most of this fan report was about a failure to control public information. Not much has changed since the 50s. Controlling information seems to have gotten worse. Stuck inside this building with the possibility of a building shift going wrong is one thing, but knowing the only protection we have against an alien entity could fail at any time is maddening. At least if I knew why they failed this, anxiety would go away. Ever since the Rangers knocked on the safe room doors last week, I have been listening to the whispers in executive. How many of the faces I saw every day are gone because of this desperate need for secrecy? Such an irony. Tomasi, the king liar himself, was infected because he wasn't fully briefed on the importance of the HRAs. If Darling hadn't classified their purpose, maybe there would be more hands on deck and less floating corpses. Floaters in this sea of stone echo the siren's song. Sailors who join the chorus are raked across the rocks. A crescendo of melody dyes the ocean red. More floaters join the depths and are abandoned for dead. Strong and sturdy ships of thought drown out the siren's song. Below deck is safety, but is blind to all around. When lightning strikes the bow, protection is all but gone. Ocean waves of red flood in, drowning the hope of dawn. A song of thunder joins to accent the siren's song. In one voice the water sings, making us feel at home. Lost is the land above, never again to be seen. We join the floaters in sleep, but never are serene. Tides recede from sandy shores, echoes the siren's song. Banished from the chorus as a castaway on the edge. Memories of sharp rocks in the sea of deep red waves, haunted by the fear to the end of these lonely days. Something weird happened today. Mixed in with files and folders was a handwritten poem. I don't know where it came from. Like we are required to, I notified a superior just in case it was altered. It isn't a pink paper like we were told to keep an eye out on, but precaution is mandatory here. They told me there was nothing wrong with it. But still, where did it come from? I read it, and the text mentions red waves spilling in, just like what I saw when the hiss took me over during the HRA failure. Must be a coincidence. The poem is signed by Calliope. Name doesn't sound familiar. Maybe an agent I've never met? I'm going to include it in the next tube drop alongside the tapes in my normal journal. I've been told that all personal writings should be sent to someone in parapsychology to review. I guess they want to monitor our mental health in case anyone nuts up. Mass hysteria, mass delusion. Why is it that fear is the most infectious thought? Something about it consumes rational thinking and makes a community behave like animals. Witches in Salem and black angels at the Lille boarding school. Fear summons suspicion of anything that is alien. Distrust of nomads could have become entwined with stereotypes of the carnies, focused on members of the Smiling Sisters Carnival. Collective focus. That is what the Bureau believes affects the creation of the objects. The game hammer, a symbol associated with the carnies. And leprosy? The word itself inflated in the public consciousness. A stigma to be placed on those to be avoided. Even those healthy and sane can be treated like lepers, like compatible chemicals in a beaker. These two concepts fuse to become the game hammers. A physical archetype of everything humanity wishes to avoid. When I woke up this morning, I found my previous page had already been filled out. Did I do it? I must have, but I vaguely remember. Maybe this place is finally getting to me. There's no windows in this place. Trapped away for a 9 to 5 job is bearable, but after a while the inability to tell night from day does things to the mind. When you don't know what time it is, a normal sleep schedule seems pointless. The body knows what it needs. Listening to it to determine when to be up and down seems to be the easiest solution. The clocks don't move. Even if they did, could I trust them to be accurate? Wristwatches aren't allowed at the checkpoint since they're potential houses ripe for alteration. Phones explode. Without any normal means of dividing it, time seems fixed, frozen in place. No new details come forth on a timeline for the hiss eradication. At least if we knew something, anything, there would be something to look forward to. As of now, it is just the next stack of documents to review. I cannot understand such an overwhelming desire to be seen by others, so much that an item was altered by that desire. Even as a child, I kept to myself. The idea of being on stage was the most terrifying thought imaginable. I guess that is why I ended up in the Dead Letters archive, sitting in an office alone and reading the thoughts of others. Still involved, but kept at a distance. Penny got my reports, and rarely, Nick and I had lunch. Otherwise, I would come to the house, do my job, and go home. Who could have guessed that my time in Dead Letters would have positioned me to have the vital information for an AWE investigation? So here I am, a promotion later, thrown more into the spotlight, but still locked away. Instead of letters, all the Bureau's documents are at my disposal. In a room, going through what has been collected by the director or rangers, waiting for something to change, something new to be learned, for those glass doors at the front to finally open. I can't remember the last time I slept through the night. Every time I nod off, I'm awakened by that incessant chatting. Anxiety returns. But something happened for the first time since the lockdown. Last night I had a dream, many dreams to be exact, like chapters in a story. Each time I descended into that realm of sleep, another chapter would play. In some, I'm in first person. In some, I'm an out-of-body observer. That's the nature of dreams. On the day of my birth, a tree was planted in a field. By the time I could walk, a sapling grew from the earth. As time passed and each chapter played out, milestones of both the tree's life and my life played in tandem. As I grew, it grew. The tree began to bear fruit. In one chapter, they were not yet ripe. In the next, they were. Every time my dream self returned to the tree, I would think back to each stage of its life. Who was I last time I was there? The passing of time linked its history with mine. As it grew taller, the roots grew deeper, stronger, unmoving, as if time had stood still in that field. Until one day a storm came. Lightning struck. The upper branches lit on fire, and the tree was severed from its roots. Who was I now? Its life and mine were entwined, being born on the same day. Now when I look back, I don't see my own history, only the day it ended. The fallen limbs were chopped up and sold like the shattered remnants of my old self. All that remains is one last fruit. I thought of eating it, enjoying, even fleetingly, the history we shared one last time. Instead, the fruit and seeds born within were placed in the earth, planting something new to stand upon the same ground as the old. At first, I was uncertain the seeds would bloom, but in the final dream, a bud broke the surface of the earth. A promise, and a hope of a new history to come, built upon the foundation of the old. Sleep disturbances is a common complaint of lockdown staff. Broken clocks mixed with no natural light leads to a dysregular circadian rhythm. This, mixed with general anxiety and no proper sleeping quarters, creates a bad combination. Artificial lighting does not provide the same benefits as sunlight. Absence of natural sunlight and interrupted sleep lead to decreased melatonin levels. Eventually, this can induce insomnia, depression, anxiety, unstable emotional states, and inability to properly perform. While there is no solution at this time to address this, after the building lockdown, it is recommended to bring up possible solutions at the next budget meeting. This can include investing in sunlight bulbs instead of LEDs throughout the house. Further analysis of the poem confirms that the handwriting is noticeably different from the agent in question. This poem, titled Siren's Chorus, appears to be thoughts on the Hiss invasion. Many other participants have thoughts on the current events, but none in this form. The poem is signed by Calliope. After searching bureau records, no agent inside the house bears this name. This is the only time the handwriting is different than normal. The entry that follows has a different voice that's notably different than those preceding. Symbolic thinking is present here, and the agent only half remembers writing it. My current hypothesis involves hypnagogic writing brought on by sleep deprivation. Writing in a hypnagogic state has been known to let the subconscious and imagination run wild. During a waking state, it becomes harder to achieve the same level of creativity. After reviewing his work file, Agent Tuttle appears to possess asocial tendencies and a general underachieving nature. Due to his recent promotion, he is struggling with his nature and the demands of the position. The following dream journal appears to be his way of working through this. Dream interpretation is an art, not a science. Symbols are unique to the dreamer, but certain patterns can be witnessed due to images in the collective unconscious. The agent appears to be working up to accepting the new position fully. This concludes the initial observations of Agent Ian Tuttle. Once additional ratings are received, an update employee evaluation will be provided.